And this is truly amazing. As I look out here and see friends and faces that I haven't seen for a while, all here to celebrate the 50th year. And for those of you who are mathematically challenged, as we're saying it's 50 years. For those of you who are really into math, it's really the first anniversary of our 50th birthday. So we've covered all that sort of stuff. You'll notice also I don't have a badge because I forgot to register. I've made all my confessions and my inadequacies are quite apparent. But what I would like to do is just take a few minutes and recognize a few folks. The ICI and its orientation originally started as the Developmental Evaluation Clinic. And it had a series of people, and I'll talk a little bit about what the principle was, but it had some staff who began in the early stages in 1967. And I would like just a moment to recognize Dr. Ludwig Szymanski, who is here in front of us. And Ludwig is an original staff member of the ICI and has continued for the years to be the voice in psychiatry around people with intellectual disabilities. So thank you for everything you've done. There's a second tier of folks who I would like to recognize, Eunice Manian and Charlie. You can't talk about Eunice without talking about Charlie. And Eunice was in the second tier of the folks who started in the area of nursing, and Eunice and Charlie have celebrated their 65th wedding anniversary. And I don't know whether Priscilla is here. Yes. Priscilla,
yes. I'm vertically challenged. I understand.
And Priscilla is also in the second tier of the founding members of the then Developmental Evaluation Center. And Stephanie? Stephanie may be in another room. It was also an early folks. Now, if I went through and decided I was going to recognize all the people who spent 2 to 3 decades of employment with the ICI, we would be here until Friday. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say that.
What about yourself? You were back then.
I know, Eunice, you uncovered me. But the reality is that there's lots of people who spent lots of time together working around a single mission and a single purpose. And one of the important things, I think, about the celebration of the ICI is to take a minute and reflect back on the history. And I look back and began to think a little bit about what were the things that we tried to correct or deal with in the field of disability, and particularly intellectual disabilities, because that's where, in fact, the ICI started in its roots. And most programs we had were segregated. We had lots of institutions, and we thought that was the best way to serve people with disabilities, and particularly people with intellectual disabilities. Special education programs, when education existed, were rampant. We had sheltered workshops. We still do, in many ways. People with disabilities really didn't have a voice. And there were really few expectations that people with disabilities would have access to the same opportunities that you and I had. And that's 50 years ago. And we've come a long way. Self-advocacy is strong. And voices, people with disabilities are speaking up for their rights. Families have historically been the vehicle of change and continue to be that. But you know what? It's not just moms and dads, it's brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews and cousins that are making the difference. So broadly defined as families. And we're getting rid of the word special because it's no deal. It is no deal to be in a special program. It's great to be in the typical programs. And that's what we're all about. So thinking a little bit about, I was talking to David Helm, and I think I'm around, and Eunice and Ludwig around in the days that we knew that UAFs existed. They were not unidentified flying objects, UFOs, university-affiliated facilities. And in 1967, in response to President John Kennedy's dissatisfaction with how the healthcare system addressed his sister, Rosemary, he felt the need to get people together. And so he, through his legislative initiatives as president, really established these interdisciplinary programs, chances to look at the whole person. And the Development Evaluation Center at that point was established at Children's Hospital. And the founding director of it can be described only as a magical person, Alan Crocker. Alan saw the good in everybody. And he set into place a recognition that in fact, everybody should have a voice. And with that, well, Alan's not here. His daughter is, Ellie. And Ellie's husband, John. Some of us had the privilege of working with Alan and learning. And we continue to learn on the importance of that. But the initiative of establishing the university-affiliated facilities was really around a recognition that bringing people together, looking at transdisciplinary training, looking at the issues of inclusive research and service programs, technical assistance, model demonstration around issues of inclusion. Not exclusion, not special, inclusion. That's what it was about. In the ICI, the DEC, and later the ICI, sort of lived up to that. In the early programs of the DEC, we were working on making sure that children with special healthcare needs were included in all educational programs and not in separate programs. That the evaluations, and many of the evaluations that were done at the DEC, really called for opportunities for kids to be in the regular classroom. Sometimes we weren't sure exactly how it would be done, but we knew it should be done. And over time, as the DEC grew, it started out with 13 disciplines. I was just checking with David Helm whether I remembered all of them, and I had forgotten one, which was the discipline of anthropology. We don't have that anymore, but we did that. And now, in the evolution and growth of the interdisciplinary training, there are 22 disciplines that sit in training programs at Children's Hospital as part of the ICI now, and has always been, and are learning and growing and becoming leaders. And David has the opportunity, David Helm has the opportunity to reach out and to track each one of those folks as to what impact they're having. And it's very impressive where these future leaders go into making a difference. So we continue to push the message of getting inclusion going, getting inclusion as part of every single aspect of it. And now today, the ICI, about 20 years ago, formed an affiliation with the University of Massachusetts in Boston. Because one of the things that was important for us was influencing training from the standpoint of pre-service and degree granting. And that gave us the opportunity to have relationships here at UMass Boston. David will quickly remind us all that we also have 13 other academic affiliations in several different areas, but the focus is really to bring people together. The ICI now currently has about 160 staff. In the last 5 years, we've had projects in all 50 states and 11 countries. The same message about inclusion and opportunity, being able to listen and to hear. It's not only that we want people with disabilities to have a voice, we need people in systems to have ears, to hear those voices and to make the changes. And then the last piece I'll just mention is some of the activities in the last 2 decades. To summarize 50 years in 5 minutes is a little bit much. Beyond the special healthcare needs, which continues to be a focus in an area in inclusive education, the ICI really is the leader in post-secondary education for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities and also autism. And some of the examples you'll see as you go around, we'll talk about those sorts of programs. Employment. You know, Toys R Us went out of business. Yeah. We're Employment R Us. That's us. That's what we're about. And then the other issue is strategic planning and systems change. We learned a lot over the last 50 years. We know that there's a lot more to be done. And we're pretty confident we have a great group of people who are going to make that difference as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Things are always smooth here. I did register. It is my privilege now to introduce Isaiah, who is going to introduce the Crocker film. So take it away, Isaiah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Isaiah Lombardo, and I am 22 years old. The ICI and the DEC has played a big role over the years, taking the lives of people with student abilities. The ICI short group is being putting projects about people with disabilities to be better educated, seek better employment, and contribute to the communities. I personally benefited from their work. While I was in Summer High School, I was able to take exclusive concurrent enrollment classes to St. Carlos at Bucky Hill Community College. My mother learned a lot by listening to Bill Canyon and working at the Boston Children's Hospital on programs through sales. She helped me get connected to programs that taught me about interviews and resumes while I was still in the early years of high school. I've been working since my senior year in high school to learn about the importance of me becoming a valuable member of my community. I'm now employed by AirMac. I work at Fenner Park. Pretty cool, huh? I am 22, and now I use self-directed funds through DDS. I had a staff person who I interviewed and told on my own. So I am the boss. I have goals I've worked on with her. I'm learning as much as I can be so independent. I look forward to the future and can't wait to live on my own as a roommate. My mother is in denial, but trust me, it's coming soon. I am a permanent member of my community. I am also on the Citizens Advisory Board at DDS. I co-teach classes with Operation House Car at Simmons College. I'm employed. I use Uber and the MBTA to get around on my own. I vote. I have great friends and a pretty cool social life. I take boxing classes and go to local YMCA. My life is awesome. Because I have a mom in it. And close friends too. Like David Hom and Buzz and Yolanda and Melanie and Lauren. But mother was told from the beginning to respect the word of me. Dr. Crocker and the IOS at DEC and the ICI set the stage for parents to expect great things from the children. Dr. Crocker was a great person. He celebrated his children, he raised the bar on expectations, he comforted parents and told them they would be just fine. He's been good at 7 and the hearts of parents. For me, for example, I love seeing him when I came to my mother's work. At the hospital, he would always ask what new things I was doing. He would feel proud of me, and I hope he still is. My hope is that all people with different abilities are welcomed and celebrated by the communities. I hope to get support to work in the songs they love. I hope they can be as independent as possible. I hope they can be the boss of their own life like I am. I want to thank everyone who has played in the role of DEC and the ICI for working to improve the surrounding of folks with student abilities like me. At this time, I'm excited to introduce a short trailer for a film about Dr. Clark's life and all that he did. Thank you.
I think my father loved his work because he had a real sense of mission about it. I think he realized how important it was.
It was a passion that combined the scientific and the practical with the poetic.
He's basically the father of developmental behavioral pediatrics.
He became not just visionary, but really active activist as possible.
We were not, in those early days, maybe the easiest people to collaborate with. It took guts to be our partners.
He was one of the first physicians ever to really join all the family movements and bring families to the table for discussion.
When he was turned on by this caring gene that he had, it would just glow, and you could just see the smile shine forth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Sanacandro. I am the relatively new director of the Institute for Community Inclusion. I've been here now a year, and I come here as a family member. And I've already talked to lots of people in this room, some of whom are the history of the movement. The 50 years that is present in this room, you are the folks that changed the world. One of the things that's obvious is we have Isaiah introduce this. Isaiah lives a life that we could never imagine 50 years ago. Here's a guy who works for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Attended college, is ready to live independently, and has a fabulous life that we all envy. That's what it's about. We want enviable lives. So he's the pride and joy of the work that you folks have all done. And I'm seeing Ellie Crocker, and I have to give a little bit of a talk. I was told about my relationship with the ICI. So I've been here a year. I've known a lot of these folks in this room for a while. But in 1984, my first son was born who has Down syndrome. And we were sent to a hospital in Boston that was not Boston Children's Hospital to meet with the premier pediatrician at the time, who told us everything my son would never do. He wouldn't walk on time, that he wouldn't ride a bike, he would potty train slow, and he would never drive. My wife and I had trouble listening to that, but we were pretty skeptical on that opinion anyway. So that was tough. The next thing we did, somehow we got connected with another doctor, and somebody sent us in to see this doctor, who welcomed us in his office. I remember him just being an old doctor coming in. I was much younger then, apparently. Brought us in, and the first thing he said is, "What a beautiful son you have." And then talked about the possibility of our son. And we continued to work with him. That was Dr. Crocker. And he was the voice for us of reason and of possibility and hope. And it's his vision and the vision of all you folks here that have caused the change in this movement. 50 years ago, you couldn't imagine sitting in this room celebrating the victories that you all have achieved. So I want to thank you all for that tremendous work that you've done. It has made the world different and better, and a better place for everybody. So thank you for that. The second part, this is not about the past. We celebrate the past, but this is about the future. Not only do we have the great minds and the great workers and the great movers of the last 50 years, we have the people in this room for the next 50 years as we move out. Lots of us will be around for the next 50 years to do this work, but the leaders in this room and in this movement are here. So we celebrate you all for the work you do. The ICI is going to continue to be strong and work and make sure that we give opportunity and voice for everyone, not only in this country, but globally, as we move ahead in the areas of education and healthcare and employment and post-secondary education. So I actually have some things I was told to do, which is not that unusual. Let me see. When the UMass staff moved to this new location, the staff felt it was important to acknowledge our history. And with the significant contribution that Dr. Alan Crocker made. So we as an organization named a conference room after Dr. Alan Crocker, which I believe is where the film is going to be shown after this. The movie's going to be shown there, and there's also photos that are present in that room that would be great to see. But with the exception of the Crocker room, the other rooms were not named. We, in fact, number them, or we called them the library. But as this program started to take shape, the staff decided to do something different. And with the recent announcement of Bill Kiernan, who said he'll be retiring in January, we will be renaming the Dean's Conference Room to the Kiernan Conference Room. Bill has been, obviously, Bill is the heart and soul of this organization. He easily gave up the reins of the ICI to me and just said, do what you want. We must move this way. So, in honor, we have made an official plaque. Room 417 shall be hereafter known as the Kiernan Conference Room.
And thanks to everybody.
And that's the end of my notes, so you can continue to eat and drink and socialize, but we are so happy that you all came to celebrate with us, celebrate the 50 years, and look forward to the next 50 years. So thank you all for being here.